Right. Good morning, grade 12. This is the first session and first PowerPoint in history. It's a revision on what you've took for the past years. To start, this is the part of your book before the chapters, the very beginning. What is history? This is the definition. As you all know, history is the study of people and events of the past. Okay? Why do we study history? Why do we have to study history? You need to know how things change over time, or how things stay the same, and how cultures change over time. Why do we study wars? Why do we study ancient times? Why do we study development of societies? So we can know how things change over time. From the past 11 years, you probably know now that each empire or each country or each place starts gradually. They start primitively, gradually, they start developing themselves. They go through the peak, which is the best period they've passed through, whether it's agriculture, whether it's industrial, whether it's intellectual, and then a decline happens. This has been done throughout history, throughout all of time. Okay? Until modern history, where things stopped declining. People and nations do not extinct or do not go to extinction, but instead we have strong countries and weak countries. This is what they mean by stay the same. We don't have empires that show and end. Instead, we have wars, we have peace treaties, and we have countries that are developed or they're going down to the developing stage. And how cultures change over time. Ancient Egypt is different than modern Egypt. How the culture changed from the pharaohs to nowadays, this is what we study and this is what we know. Any questions so far about history, definition, and why do we study history?
No.
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 No. No.
Now, to start with time. When we measure time, we have different measuring eras or time frames. To start with, as you all know, a decade is 10 years.
10
Century,
years.
100 years.
100 years.
Yes. Millennium, 1,000 years.
1,000 years.
When I say era, it means a large block of time. Okay? It's more than a millennium. It might be less than a millennium, but it's a time frame with similar characteristics. Do you understand the different definitions, the different years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When we divide time, we divide it into prehistory, ancient history, Middle Ages, and modern history. Prehistory, it's the time of the Ice Age and the caveman. Remember when we took in grade 10 and 11, who remembers the time frame? What do we call it other than prehistory? There was a certain bridge. Anyone remembers that?
Ice Age.
Stone Age.
No, the time frame between Ice Age and Stone Age.
Neolithic.
Before that. Remember we said that people were living in a certain place in Siberia. And then it started to get cold.
Bering Bridge?
Yes, the Bering Strait, the Bering Bridge, and Beringia. This is the time of prehistory, where people were cavemen. Okay, it was the Stone Age and the Ice Age, and they did not know anything except that they hunted animals and they gathered seeds and berries. There were no other activities at all. This was 5,500 years before writing. Okay? When people moved using Beringia and they moved to Africa and they started the Stone Age and they started farming and they started agriculture and they started developing, we call this ancient history. Okay? Starting from the point that the people moved from the Ice Age and moved from Beringia up to the point where they discovered farming, they turned farming into agriculture, and then they started using metals, they started developing metals, up from the ancient Egypt and Tigris and Euphrates, all the ancient times that we've talked about in grade 11, up to Greece and Rome. This is all ancient history. Okay? Next, in the period of time, is the Middle Ages. The medieval times were the times that people were developed. They had clothes, they had shelter, they were educated. There were certain religious disputes. Okay, they had certain rules about men and women. They had certain rules about religion, the formation of the Protestants and the Catholics, the Reformation. It was the time of the Knights, the time of the Gothic ages and the Gothic art. This is the time from 500 to 1400 AD. After the Middle Ages, which ended with Rome and the gladiator and all these games, came modern history, which is the start of when people started the Crusades, when people started exploring Americas, and then the American Revolution, and then the French Revolution, and then World War I, World War II, up to the present day. Is the division of time clear? These four?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
So if I gave you any event from the events that you are familiar with, and I ask you to put it in one of these four categories, can you do that?
Yes.
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 Who can't? Who cannot differentiate between the four time frames? You can all do that, right? So if I ask you, for example, Civil War or the Cold War, where does it go?
Modern.
Modern.
Modern history.
Modern
Modern.
history.
Okay. If I ask you, for example, Caesar, where does he go?
Ancient history.
Ancient.
Hmm?
Ancient.
Ancient history.
Ancient history. If I ask you, knights in the feudal system.
Middle Age.
Middle
Age.
Okay, so you're all clear about the division, right? Caveman, Stone Age, Ice Age. This is?
Prehistory.
Prehistory.
Okay, so is it all clear?
Yes.
Now, another form of measuring time other than dividing them into blocks or eras are the methods. We use two methods. One, calendars.
Calendar.
Two, timelines. Now, calendars, we use them when we want mute, please. Whoever has the mic on, please mute it. Okay. We use calendars when we want to spot a specific event, a specific date. When we're talking about days, weeks, or months, we use a calendar then. We have two types of calendars, the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar. The Julian calendar, from its name, was developed by Julius Caesar. The year was counted, or it started, for example, year 1 from the foundation of Rome. This was the beginning of the calendar. And the calendar had 365 and a quarter of a day. Okay? Every 4 years, we had one extra day in the calendar. This is similar to the calendar that we use today, but the difference is we do not use it from the foundation of Rome. The second type of the calendar is the Gregorian calendar. Pope Gregory discovered that the Julian calendar wasted a lot of time, specifically in the details, because some months were not complete, some weeks were not complete. So Pope Gregory made the calendar that we use nowadays, which is the week has 7 days and the month has 30 or 31 days, excluding February. So this is the calendar that we use today, or most of the world use it today. Any questions?
No.
Okay, so this is the first way of measuring time. We said we use calendars, and the other method we use timeline. Now, a timeline, unlike the calendar, is used to track or measure a long period of time. It's longer than months, it's longer than years. We're not talking about 10 years. No, we're talking about hundreds and more. It's a very long period of time. Okay, we use it when we want to measure events, for example, from the 1400s to the 1500s. A period of 100 years, you cannot go through calendars of months. Okay, so if I ask you, what is the difference between a calendar and a timeline? What would you answer?
The calendar for short periods and the timeline for long.
Okay, so we use a calendar to track short periods of time, from days to weeks to months to years, but not more, for example, than 10 years. While in a timeline, you use it to track very large periods of time. You cannot use it to track weeks, days, months, or years. Is it clear?
Yes.
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 Now, remember the definitions that we took in grade 11? The difference between history and psychology and archaeology and paleontology. This is a repetition, exactly the same. Now, we took the definition of history. Now, archaeology is the study of artifacts. And as we all know, artifacts are objects made by people. Okay, things that we discover, such as tools, weapons, pottery, and jewelry. They're not skeletons, okay? They're not fossils. So archaeology is the study of all things that we discover that people left, but these things are usually man-made. Tools, weapons, pottery, and jewelry. Clear?
Yes.
Paleontology is the same study. We study things that we discover, but what do we discover? We discover things in, yes, plants and animal remains in the soil, fossils, remains, skeletons, pieces, dried leaves that were hidden under the soil. So artifacts, man-made. Fossils, these are the remains of animals and plants and people. Clear the difference between archaeology and paleontology?
Clear.
Yes.
Okay. Now, artifacts, anthropology is the study of culture and how it changes over time. Remember when we were discussing why do people study history? We said that part of studying history was to know how culture changes over time. What happened to Egypt from the very first day of the foundation, from the pharaohs, up until today? Who studied this? Who knows this? Yes, historians, but which type of historians? They are known as anthropologists. Okay? These people, all of these categories go under historians. Historians are divided into people who study anything that has to do with history. Okay? Archaeologists, they study the part of history that has to do with artifacts, man-made tools. Paleontologists, they are historians who study the fossils that were remaining or that were found throughout a large period of time. Anthropologists, they study culture. They do not care about animals. They do not care about plants. They do not care about artifacts. They care about culture. They care about the society. They care about traditions. They care about the 5 aspects of culture: the religion, the language, the behavior of people, how it changes over time. This is the only thing that they study. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it clear to all of you?
Yes.
Apart from Rashwan, Shahd, Jana, Samar, and you know the voices that I've been hearing, the rest of you, the quiet ones. Is it clear for everyone, the past slides?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. Now, do you remember Lucy from grade 11?
Yes.
Book of grade
Yes, she
11.
is the first.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Lucy was the first
Ah.
skeleton that was discovered. Okay. And we said that Lucy was classified. Remember that scientists, they divide animals and people and plants into species. Okay, a species, a class of species or species is a class of individuals with similar physical characteristics. Okay, reptiles, mammals, amphibians, birds, these are all species. In history, they take the mammals, because humans are mammals, and divide them into historical species. Okay, as humans, we are classified under the species of Homo sapiens. And we said that Homo sapiens, it means that people who walk on two. Clear? So the first Homo sapien to be discovered was Lucy. It was part of her skeleton that was discovered. And when they studied this skeleton, they discovered that she was a female that lived 3.2 million years ago. She weighed 60 pounds and she was 3.5 feet tall. And she was in her mid 20s or late 20s. Anything
Miss,
else
isn't
here about
this
this part? Isn't this what?
Yeah.
Too big? Yes.
small?
This is part of her skeleton. If part of her skeleton is 60 pounds
Large,
and 3.5 feet tall.
I
Okay?
thought small.
Another theory says that the human evolution started from giants that looked like monkeys and cavemen, and then they started gradually getting smaller until they reached our size and our shape. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Because 60 pounds is 120 kilos. So this is one pretty big lady. Do you understand, Lucy, and the division of species?
Yes.
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 Okay. طيب, I will stop the session because this is the math session. Okay? And then we will start with the other session so we can continue the other half of the lesson.
So we
We
should
start now
join
or we wait?
I will end the session, the first session.
Okay.
ندخل تاني بقى.
Yes, and then we go with the second.
Okay.
ندخل على دلوقتي ولا 11:40؟
لا, no, right now. I'll
طيب.
stop the session and then
Okay.
I'll start the other one.
Okay.
Okay.